Welcome to Conversations with the Pastor, the hippest show in the Pacific Northwest, where we talk about current events and things that matter to you. We're here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Now listen, this is an interactive conversation. That means we need you to ask questions via Facebook or pastorconversations at the NBCF.org. Don't miss out. Now let's start the conversation. Pastor?
Good evening and welcome to Good evening and welcome to another edition of Conversations with the Pastor. And yes, it's a conversation, and what makes it a conversation is because it's a dialogue and not a monologue, which means you got to let your fingers do the walking across that keyboard and talk back to me. Let me know what's on your mind as you listen to the conversation with myself and my guests and see how it unfolds. And then it's like playing double dutch. Once you get the rhythm of the ropes, you jump in as you can get in. But we want you to be a part of this conversation tonight. But before I introduce my illustrious guest for tonight's conversation, I want to begin by simply saying we have 20 days left until the November 5th elections. The elections actually have already started. Several states have begun early voting. And in one of the real battleground states, the states of Georgia, historically red but flipped blue in the last election, has had a record 500,000, 500,000 ballots cast in the first 2 days of early voting. The first 2 days of early voting. And several other states, voting has already begun. They said as of today, over 7 million ballots have been cast. 7 million people have already made a choice for who's going to be the preeminent citizen of these United States of America. The commander-in-chief, the executive branch, head of the executive branch of the government, a branch in one person whose job is not to break the laws, but to, in fact, enforce the law. And so we ask you to get out and vote. Get out and vote. And as Obama often says, don't boo, vote. Many of these elections are going to be razor thin, and I just want those folks out there who are thinking your vote does not matter. In many of these municipalities, states, and other districts, a handful of votes is going to determine the difference in a state, and the difference in a state can determine the difference in a national outcome. Please vote like your life depends on it, because it does. Vote like your life depends on it, but because it does. Now, I can't tell you who to vote for, but you know. That's all I'm going to say. You know. So, we as a people who have come over a way that with tears has been watered and tread a path through the blood of the slaughtered, we suffered, bled, and died to get the right that other folks got just for breathing. It is literally disrespectful to the graves of our ancestors to not utilize the suffrage, the right to vote, when our people had to die to get it. James Russell Lowe once said that every man can transmute his own private thought and opinion into history and destiny by placing it in the ballot box. Every man can transmute his own private thought and opinion into history and destiny by placing it in the ballot box. If you want to help shape the history and the destiny of this nation, place your private thought and opinion in the ballot box. It was Raphael Warnock, the first black U.S. senator from the state of Georgia, who, because of the turnout in the last election from Georgia voters, who said that our vote is a bit of a prayer for the kind of nation we want to be. So I pray that you pray on your knees, knee bent and head bowed and eyes closed, but I also pray that you pray with your ballot, a prayer, a civic prayer for what kind of nation you want this to be. Enough of my civic sermon. I want to switch gears here, and today we're going to talk about AI, artificial intelligence. As we live out what was only imagined by the movie makers who came up with I, Robot and Terminator, when the machines would take over, and I don't know if we're going to get there, but the genie is out of the bottle, and now we've made machines that can remove the human error, can count faster than we can count, compose sentences, develop curriculums, land planes, give directions faster than human beings could ever imagine. And so we've got to get in the game and get command of the new technologies. And like everything else in our culture, minority communities always seem to be a day late and a dollar short. So we're trying to expedite equity in the field of artificial intelligence with a special program, an artificial intelligence training program that can lead to employment in the industry, even the development of one's own private business, special program that is coming right here to the New Beginnings Christian Fellowship. And I want to introduce my three guests, and one of which is Mr. Eddie Wright Jr., who's going to give you an overview of the program, and our guests will go into even greater detail. So I want to welcome back to the stage of a conversation with the pastor, the one and only iconic Mr. Eddie Wright Jr.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
And then also want to introduce our special guest, Ram Dixit and Omar Qureshi.
Thanks, Pastor.
All right. Eddie, tell us about this program, because you are the one who brought it to us.
Pastor, thank you very much for this opportunity. Ram and I have been working on this for about 2 or 3 years, and it was hard to come about, but in talking to him and looking at the fact that he was in the tech industry for over 35 years, and he admitted that not very many people that look like me were in the places of employment that hired folks like Microsoft, the other technology companies. And he, as one of the people that said, you know, had it not been for African Americans fighting for civil rights and stuff, it also afforded us an opportunity to come to this country. And in terms of the overall program itself, I'm going to defer to Ram and Omar to talk about the details of the program. It will start on November 5th at New Beginnings. We did present to the congregation last Sunday, and as a result of that presentation, we finished with one cohort, and from that presentation we got the second cohort, and we also have a third one on the way. We've also been invited to several other churches to make the presentation as well, but it began right here where the first program will be starting November 5th at New Beginnings Christian Fellowship. So I'd like to have Ram, the technology expert, go into the details of the training program itself.
Ram?
Hey, first of all, Pastor, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. You know, this partnership has been amazing. And let me just give you some more background to some color to what Eddie said. You know, I've been in the technology space for 35 some odd years. And if you look around high tech, you see a lot of people that look like me, you know, brown guys. You see a lot of white people. You don't see a whole lot of people that look like you, Pastor, or that look like Eddie. You don't even find a whole lot of women, to be quite honest. And, you know, if I step back and think about this, as a country, for us to move forward, we really need to create new opportunities in next generation business areas where everybody can rise up. You know, I grew up during the internet revolution, early 90s, and when the internet wave happened, on the East Coast and on the West Coast, you had people from suburbia who had access to cloud and to the internet. They did really well. There was enormous wealth created. But then you've got communities, African American to be precise, that got left behind. And today, if I step back and look at what's happening, artificial intelligence, that is the next wave, the jobs of tomorrow for the next 20, 25 years. The growth is going to happen because of AI. And as a country and as a society, we cannot allow the same thing to happen, what happened during the internet revolution. And so as Eddie and I started talking together, we said, you know, there's got to be a better way. And it's just not about training people. I'll let Omar talk more details about the training, but what's unique about what we've put together is we're taking a holistic approach. Because as a lot of you know, training is one thing. You could go to Bellevue College or you can go to any school to get real technology training. But what we want to do is, so secret to success in this industry, it's about technology. It's also about how do you interview at companies, right? It's how do you get that job? Once you get into the company, what do these companies look for? Well, what's their expectation? And so we're taking a holistic approach for our participants, teaching them about technology, teaching them about HR, teaching them about interviewing skills. And so we're taking this holistic approach that hopefully is going to be a real differentiator.
Most certainly. Pastor Braxton, first of all, thanks for giving us this platform and having us over. In the words of Jay-Z, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Let me share some stats with you. Asian Americans and Indians combined together are less than 8% of the US population. Yet it accounts for more than 35% of the tech employment. African Americans account for roughly 14%. Their representation in tech is less than 5%. When you look at women in senior leadership, it's even less than 0.3%. Now, I don't need to tell you, but there's something in the trickle-down economy that's not really working here.
Something's not trickling down.
And imagine that.
Yep.
Didn't trickle
And,
on.
your sermon over the Sunday, time to build. And this is the time to build. And we're building it right from here. And the way we are doing this is not much different than how private sector does. So we're bringing in the sharpest minds to build together the curriculum that we know for a fact will work. We're starting off with cybersecurity. As of this morning, there are 473,000 vacant jobs in the United States for cybersecurity. So there's a huge pent-up demand. Ram had mentioned, you yourself mentioned, AI is going to be a big theme, so we will focus on AI. We'll also give the great concepts on development and coding, as well as data services. And last but not least, the biggest and the last mile is how do you build a resume? How do you show up on an interview? I would tell you out of college, it took me 5 attempts before I got my first job. I just didn't have the right mentorship to teach me. I had the right credibility, certifications, but I just didn't know how to show up on an interview. So we'll bring in recruiters, we'll bring in mentors that will work with the kids. I'm calling them kids because I'm old. But one-on-one, and they will teach them, hey, this is how you focus on the resume. This is how you show up on an interview. This is what you emphasize on. Now, the program itself, we're starting off here November 5th, as Eddie mentioned. It's going to be 2 hours Tuesdays and Thursdays. And from there onwards, we're going to run this for 3 months, so roughly about 40 or so hours in person. There's going to be about 80 to 100 hours of remote learning. So we have partnered with LinkedIn and a LMS service provider, Cypher, that will allow capabilities such as, you can do on your own pace at your own time. Because I've gone through about 50 or so interviews already. And there are 2 recurring themes that show up. One is, I'm working all day long. I don't have time to, step away from work. So can I do something in the evenings or on the weekends? With this curriculum, yes, you can. Second thing as a theme that shows up is, hey, maybe I don't have a lot of technology experience. Would I even qualify? Short answer, everybody qualifies. We're looking for at minimum GED equivalent, 18 plus, but there's no age restriction. Even if you have a criminal background, you are even invited to apply. So there is literally, Pastor, at this point, no restrictions for anybody to apply.
And Pastor, just to add to this, see, look, there is no, as long as somebody has a GED, whether somebody's 18, whether somebody's 25, whether somebody's 55, everybody wants a shot at a good paying job. Mm-hmm. We want to help create that opportunity. And when you go out and talk to some of these companies, a common answer they give you, they say, well, you know, Ram, we've got nothing against certain communities. We just can't, if we could find people with the skills, sure, we'd hire them. We just can't find people with those skills. And it just sort of makes you wonder, is it, everybody's got the God-given ability to learn, as long as they're given the opportunity and the exposure on what is it, and the opportunity to actually, get exposed to that and learn that. Because if somebody's told, hey, you know what, you don't belong, or you don't belong here, or you'll never get a job here, and you should go flip a burger or whatever, yeah, that's what people think they can do. But you know what? Everybody, if they get the opportunity, they can excel. And so the approach we're taking in this program is, even if somebody's in the justice system, and we all know how the system works, hey, everybody deserves a second chance. And, getting a job at a Fortune 500 company might be a challenge if they're in the system, but the beauty of the technology space, they can start their own company, because every company, every business out there needs technology. And these technologies that we're training our participants on, they can start a consulting business. And those businesses pay really well. They pay really well.
Indeed. And
Go ahead.
Pastor, just to add on to what Ram was mentioning, a couple other themes of questions that we hear during these interviews is there any cost associated to it? And the answer is absolutely, there's no cost. All you have to do is show up with open mind and open heart, and be ready to study and work, because you get what you pay for in terms of your own time. The second question that recurrently shows up, can you guarantee me a job after 12 weeks? And short answer is, no. Pastor, as much as I would love to, the short answer for that is no. So what is this program meant for? That's what it comes down to, right? We want to remove any hesitation, any shyness that people might have on technology, being concerned about, hey, can I even do this?
Or do I belong?
Yes.
Right? Because if I go in there, I don't see people that look like me. People have been typically told me, why are you even considering this? Nobody's even suggested this. And so the message we're giving people is, you absolutely belong. You have the opportunity to excel. Here's what it takes. And the only thing we ask, now, there is no cost associated with it, but we're asking participants, you give it your fullest. We need your dedication and effort, and you're going to get what you put into the program.
So don't waste your slot. Don't take a slot so someone else with real ambition and aspiration, who's really hungry, could actually be in. So you're talking about taking people who, at a baseline, they have a desire to upgrade their lives. They want a good paying job on the cutting end of where employment trend is going. And that's in the broad range of field of technology, including artificial intelligence. And it's a 12-week program. And they've got to put in, you said, about 108 hours
of classroom training and labs
and so forth. And they can kind of customize it when they put in some of these other hours after work and so forth. So it's flexible for the working person to do that. And at the end of 12 weeks, whereas you can't guarantee a job, and I don't think anyone expects anyone to ever guarantee a job in a free market system, but you can guarantee that I'm qualified for a job.
Exactly.
And Pastor, what we can guarantee is there's going to be recruiters, other people from these companies that hire people.
Connected to the program.
Connected to the program. They're going to be coming in. They're going to be engaging with the participants, telling them, hey, I'm representing company XYZ. These are the kinds of skills we're looking for. The topics you're learning as a part of this initiative, hey, we want you to focus on these areas. And by the way, when we come in to interview you, this is our expectation. Here's how you got to interview. This is what's going to help you successfully interview. But then it's up to the candidate.
Okay, so your invitation is about as broad as the one that I open up at the end of a sermon, where whosoever will, let them come. So you have, this is technological evangelism. Whosoever will, come on. And so the technological altar is open.
Yes.
And you're gonna, at the end of 12 weeks, if I put in the effort and the work, I'm going to be qualified for a job. Then there's going to be recruiters looking for qualified people to hire, who also are going to teach me along the way how to write my resume so that I can best represent what I have to offer, and how to interview so that I know how to show up and be able to walk the walk and talk the language. Exactly. So I know how to best sell myself and not undersell myself.
Yes, and these folks that are going to be and we're also going to have technology leaders from these companies coming in, mentoring the participants, sharing their experiences on what it took for them to be successful in the industry. And recruiters are going to be coming in knowing that our participants, our students, are going to have a certain baseline level. They're going to be coming in, our students are going to have the benefit of the doubt that they belong, that they're qualified, and it's going to be hopefully much better outcomes.
Yeah.
No. Pastor, in addition, I'm working with, as a matter of fact, I got to set the meeting up for Ram and Omar and myself with Marie Carosa, who's Executive Director of the King County Workforce Development Program, and people who are upgrading their skills can get $1,000 a month. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but that is the intention. And so that's another added plus to getting the training. You also get some money for getting smart.
$1,000 a month to take the training. You're going to pay them to upgrade their lives.
That's right.
Well, you know, there's some pastors out here who want to upgrade. I could choose a little side hustle. I got flexible work hours. I got a lot to do, but I can move it around. So talk to me about that when this is over.
No, we have seen you in action, Pastor. You're very persuasive. Look, there are a couple more things to add to on top of what just Eddie was talking about. There are 6 courses that we are offering. Think of them as 6 flavors of ice cream, or better yet, when you go to medical, hospital, any other field, there are eye doctors, there are cardiologists, so on and so forth. There are 6 disciplines we are opening up for introduction purposes. And what we expect after the first 12 weeks is students to say, hey, I really am excited about this generative AI. I'm really excited about programming. I'm really excited about cybersecurity. And what we want to do, Pastor, is we want to line them up with more advanced curriculum and certification.
To go even deeper.
Yes. And the goal over here is the first 12 weeks is foundational. Then we'll add another 12 weeks, which would get them a more intermediate to advanced level alignment. And some students, might want to go pursue, graduate degrees, PhDs, things of that nature. But we believe that after the first 3 to 6 months, students are going to be in a position to identify their specialization, be put in the right number of hours and get certified, and third, be ready to go into these interviews. And with these 3 things lined up, they'll have a lot better shot than by not going through these 3 things.
And the other thing, just so that everybody knows the power of the certification, right? That's portable. So somebody might say, I've learned this AI introduction. This stuff around ChatGPT, I want to go deeper. We're going to have specialized modules after that first cohort. And then you've got companies like Microsoft, AWS, Amazon AWS, Google. They offer certification exams. Because then if you get Microsoft certified, say on Azure, all of a sudden you can go anywhere on this planet. And if you say, I am Azure whatever certified, people recognize that. People put a value, put a premium on somebody who has that Microsoft certification or AWS certification. We're going to help you get on that journey.
Well, let me ask you, how long has the nomination process been open? How many people have applied thus far? And you said it starts Election Day.
November 5th. Hopefully
November 5th.
Yes.
Yeah. After they vote.
And it's still open for nominations. So how long has the process been open? How many people to date have applied?
Excellent question, Pastor. So the process has been going on over the last 6 weeks. And as of now, we have about 50 nomination or candidacy. So our first cohort is going to start first week of November, November 5th, as you just mentioned. That is already full. Our second cohort is going to start December 5th, like a month out.
Okay.
And in between, what our plan is, based on the interest, we might start a third cohort in parallel in December as well. So there are still 25 or so spots available. It's first come, first serve. It's open to everybody, just the way you said.
So you'll get one group started, a month later you start another group, and another month later you'll start another group.
Yeah, because we're not going to say no to anybody. The only person we would turn away is if they do not have a GED. If, we had a number of students, they were like 12, 13 years. We're like, guys, you want to get your high school diploma first.
Yes.
Right? But as long as somebody has a GED, we say no, everybody is welcome. Now, we're deliberately keeping our cohorts to be 25, 26 because we want to tailor, customize this program.
Some
because
hands-on, yeah.
Lots of hands-on. And also, look, we recognize that people are going to be in different levels of capability. Mm-hmm. And so this isn't going to be, hey, we're just, the instructors are going to come in and do their thing, whether the participants learn or not. No, we don't want to do that. We want to keep the class sizes small, so that we can give them really focused one-on-one kind of coaching and make sure that they're actually able to learn, get practical experience.
While those of you who are out there, let your fingers do the walking. Send in those questions because we know you have them. If I were you, my mind would be buzzing with questions. Send them in because the experts are here to answer them. Now, you said that the technology field, the landscape team seems to be male-dominated. Mm-hmm. I was at the Evans School of Leadership last week for their awards program, and my daughter just graduated from there in May with her master's degree, and they said that the persons coming into their new programs are over 75% female. They don't know why that it is, because what they're teaching is gender neutral in terms of public leadership. Mm-hmm. But you said this is tilted in the other direction. Yeah. Why is the technology field so male-dominated when doesn't seem to be a reason why it would be?
Yeah, Pastor, excellent question. I'm a father of 3 boys and 1 girl. And I would tell you, my girl is the sharpest of my 4.
Are your boys watching this program?
Hopefully not. They're all asleep. Hopefully they're all asleep.
So Daddy said we ain't smart.
And when you look at some of the systematic data on STEM education, and it starts with the household, in my opinion, encouragement, and then it goes into school. But when you look through what has happened in this country last 30 years ago, it has been male-dominated because STEM majors and STEM education has been predominantly led by men and boys. And those boys then go to college, then they graduate, and then they get the jobs. That's the first part. Second part, a lot of the other jobs, the 30% or so, is through H-1B visa and immigration programs. And there's also a lot of male dominance or male population that comes in through that. So over the years, what you have seen, especially in tech, you see a lot more male dominance and not a lot of female. But the good news is, companies recognize that.
That's starting to change.
Yeah, and they're putting in emphasis in terms of quotas, emphasis in terms of recruitment, retention, nurturing. I would tell you, my wife, she's a former nurse, and after having 3 kids, she decided that, okay, hey, this is gonna be difficult to manage. Some of my peer friends who are female, and after becoming moms, it becomes very difficult because in the work-life balance and everything else, and the way some jobs are structured, they don't take that into consideration.
That's a really important point, Omar, that you make, because Pastor, if you look at high tech, one of the things that's extremely intense, people put in 10, 15-hour days sometimes. And a lot of times what happens is, rightly or wrongly, the burden of taking care of the family and kids and other things, it's the ladies, the women, that they take a leadership role in that. And historically, high tech, they've said, hey, unless you're willing to put in these incredibly crazy long hours, no work-life balance, you're not going to get the progression. So a lot of times in high tech, what's typically happened is women have gotten into high tech, but then after some time, the career peters out because there isn't a supportive environment. Now, thankfully, that is changing. Within high tech, people are recognizing that you can work hard, but at the same time, you can also have, or you should have, a family life. You should be looking at other things. And men are also starting to step up and say, hey, let's start to share the home responsibilities so that we can support each other.
Like me. Thank you.
I remember back in 2016, the last time we had a neo-fascist gangster run for president and actually win, and his first act as president was a Muslim ban. And the Washington State Attorney General, who's now running for governor, opposed that ban. It was upheld by the Supreme Court. And I remember being a member of LA Fitness and sitting in the steam room and listening to all of these guys that look like you and Eastern African guys who were literally debating whether or not they were going to go home and visit their families in any near term because they were afraid they were not going to be able to get back in the country. Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, all those industries had taken advantage of all the special visas, which we keep increasing them each year, because the American educational system was not producing the amount of engineers that we needed for today's economy. So is this program here as a byproduct of, is there some domestic flaw in education and training where the American educational system is not producing what the American tech industry needs?
Actually, Pastor, it's two things. I'll answer your question this way, right? So one...
Number one, was it a good question?
It's a phenomenal question. You actually hit the nail on the head.
Did y'all hear that? He said a phenomenal question. Go ahead.
Here's why. One, as a country, we've got to educate and, get more STEM, engineering, those capabilities. We absolutely have to do that. There's also this driver of, hey, let's try and depress wages, let's try and bring people, special visas, etc., to keep costs under control.
So you're saying the people that were in the steam room with me had the skills, but because of where they come from, Microsoft and Amazon could get them on the cheap?
They can get them at a much more, let's just say, you got more availability based on, supply and demand. Lots of people want to come in. Yes, the law says you've got to pay the market wages, but what somebody who might have gone to a Berkeley or a Stanford or whatnot, the salary they look for, somebody who wants to come into this country, get a green card, citizen, and really put down roots, they spend upwards of 8-10 years waiting for a green card, and you'll get them at a much better deal.
So we're undercutting the domestic
wages.
labor market
Yes.
with cheap imported foreign labor.
Look, there are two
America
aspects
never
to it.
changes.
No, and here's the other thing that happens, right? And this was one of the genesis for this program, which is, what Eddie and I were talking about is, wait a minute, we've got a lot of people in our own backyard. Look, a lot of jobs in tech, you don't need a PhD. Very bluntly, you do not need a PhD. Somebody spends, 4 to 6 months going deep into a certain area of technology, you can get a 6-figure job. Right? People don't talk about that. You can
Just
get
say
a
that
6-figure
again?
job. Right? There's certain things in technology, like, managing the cloud or whatnot. There's certain areas. There's a shortage of skills, and there are 6-figure jobs that are going unmet, and a lot of people are coming in from outside of the country. Bless their heart, they're coming in for all the right reasons, and they take those jobs because companies are not able to find the skilled people to do that. Now, I think about this program that we're talking about, Pastor. We can as well train people in our own backyard people who have lived here for hundreds of years, and why don't we create opportunities for them?
Look,
I'm feeling you.
Yep.
Right?
Look, I would just add to what Ram mentioned. So I think fundamentally our advanced technology, training that is beyond K-12 is top-notch. The world comes here to get educated.
Yeah.
Simple as that. To Ram's point, there is a profitability aspect to it. We can go to India where you have a billion population to hire maybe 100,000 people a year. Yes, there's a competition, and competition drives wages lower.
And I'm going to say this, look, I'm from India. If people didn't know, hey, I come from India, right? When I was growing up, my dad said, son, do you want to be an engineer or do you want to be a doctor? And so that's sort of the mindset a lot of people from South Asia take, that they want their children to go into STEM or they want to go into medicine. Now it's changing today, yes, but typically most people, they want their kids to go down that path. And so because of that, there is, there are some countries, India, China, to be really specific, they pump out lots and lots of engineers, lots of STEM degrees, really top-notch people. A lot of them come here, and they get trained, they go to top-notch universities, and they become highly qualified.
Yeah. And where I was going with this, Pastor, is where we struggle as a country is K-12.
Yeah.
That is our Achilles heel. And this is where, when we look at grassroots movements such as, your call to action, to your congregation and so on and so forth. This is the kind of stuff we got to do. The program that we are building over here, this is the kind of the grassroots movement we can start. Because 99% of the people I interview in this program, they're like, will I be able to complete this program? Because they think that technology is so difficult to fathom. And some of these people are, head supervisor of a warehouse. That work is way more difficult than the work I do, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I want to get to some of our online questions, but you just casually said, well, where we struggle in this country is K through 12. That's kind of like the whole ball game.
Yes.
It's not like you said middle school's tough. Yep. You said K through 12. That's the entire academic career before you go out to college. And we've known that, I mentioned Sunday, the World Health Association has said that we're 49th in life expectancy, but we're 38th in reading comprehension.
Yep.
We're 34th in math and 42nd in science.
Yes.
But we're number one in per capita incarceration of our own citizens. We're number two in the industrialized world in shootings by other citizens. And we're 4% of the global population. We consume 60% of the illegal and exotic drugs. So we get high more than anybody else.
And Pastor, what that goes to is K through 12. It's the priorities and it's sort of the focus of the family where they got it, and it's not just parents, right? It's society writ large, because again, and it takes a village. It's what do you learn in school? How do they teach? What are the things that they expose children to in school? Now, one of the key things that shocked me as I started to go deeper into this is the kinds of things a child, K through 12, gets exposed to in school depends on the zip code you come from. If you've got a really smart kid, a kid with a lot of potential is going to school in a zip code where it's economically depressed, they're not going to get exposed to technology. They're not going to get exposed to AI. They might not even have a laptop. Or they might have a laptop that's 3 years old. Whereas you've got a zip code where you've got, people that are economically well off. Those schools are going to be well funded. They're going to get exposed to the latest technologies. They're going to have people from the industry coming in, uplifting the students, painting the picture of the art of the possible, creating that spark, that inspiration of, hey, this is what I can aspire to. They'll have role models that have built companies. And what we as a country need to do is it's about people's God-given potential, whether they come from a rich background or a wealthy background or economically disadvantaged. How do we make opportunities available to everybody?
Kevin, what you got for me, man?
Got a three-parter real quick. Can you talk a little bit more about the impact of AI and what industry changes are anticipated, and how long do you think it will take to see the results of AI?
You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Look, AI is the single biggest disruption that is going to be happening to humankind since the existence.
Disruption.
Yes. Now, some people are estimating as much as 50% of white-collar jobs could be changed or displaced in the next 7 years.
7?
7. That estimate could be a lot faster, depending on the vertical you're in. Blue collars, in some ways, are a lot safer jobs in that case. But if you think about it, 50 years ago, if you made a phone call, it probably went to an operator who manually routed that connection or that call. That job no longer exists, obviously. All of this gets done through iPhones and other PBX exchanges. If you went 100 years ago to New York City or Chicago, and you went in an elevator, you had somebody who pushed a button. That job got displaced with technology. So key over here is I don't want to scare off people who are watching this at home and say, hey, is my job going to disappear? The short answer is your job is going to change. Now, your goal, if you're like me, a middle-aged guy or girl, is to learn about AI and learn how to work with it, how to be more productive, get your kids educated with it, nephew, nieces, your neighbors, because people who will be able to work effectively with AI are the ones that are going to be able to produce more.
You're spot on there, Omer, because my perspective is every job will be impacted by AI. So there's three choices for people, right? How do I embrace the change that's going to happen? How do I embrace AI and technology? Make it a part of my toolkit so that people that are going to really do well in the future economy is people who can leverage AI and other technology so they can do their job better, get more creative, and do really cooler things. That's one. There's another type of person that's going to say, hey, you know what? I think AI is going to impact jobs and people's wages, and so I'm going to just close my eyes and avoid it. Guess what? No good's going to happen, either for them or potentially down the road for their children, because this change is with us, whether we like it or not, for the next 50 some odd years. It's going to be here for a long time. So we can look at this as, how do we leverage this and use it as an opportunity to bring our creativity to the forefront? Because, hey, I'm a firm believer that, end of the day, human creativity and human ingenuity, no AI can rival that. So we just need to leverage
So
that.
Ram and Omar are saying if you got a white-collar job, it's going away anyway, so you might as well get in AI and get a job, and the industry is going to take the job you got. They didn't say exactly that, but you get the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kevin, what
It was
else you
like,
got?
hold on, wait a minute. We always talk about AI, but can you talk more about your offerings for data services and cyber?
Most certainly.
Go for it.
Look, I'll start off with cybersecurity, and then I'll move into data services. Cybersecurity is going to be a 4 to 6 weeks long engagement. We'll do Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2-hour instructor-led, 2-hour labs. Now, what are we trying to educate students here is to get the fundamentals of cybersecurity in terms of firewall, intrusion detection. I think those of you who were traveling about a couple months ago heard about CrowdStrike. And I'm not bashing that company on Church Forum here. But
We love CrowdStrike. Hey, you can sponsor us, CrowdStrike.
Yeah, but what you saw was one company that provides firewall intrusion detection that is so entrenched in every system that if it stops working, it actually brought the whole internet down. It created all sorts of chaos. This morning, as I was mentioning at the onset of it, it's like 500,000 cybersecurity jobs are available today for you to be grabbed. And all you got to do is between 6 to 12 months of your time and investment to become qualified for an entry level. So that's the first part on cybersecurity. Second on is the data services. Now, everything that we do today, whether you take a picture on iPhone or this podcast that is being recorded and will be stored, everything touches data. The form you're going to fill to apply for this curriculum and this program is based on data. So everything that we do as a user of internet is through data. And what we're going to do is walk through 6 weeks of curriculum that talks about fundamentals of how data gets stored, how data gets processed through various data warehouses, RDMBS, SQL Server, Oracle, so on and so forth. And how do you apply that in terms of the context of application development? Let me take a pause over here, because if you have more questions, do go to our website and look out, reach out to me. I'll provide some more details.
www.mlkgandhi.org. Go to our website. And for all of you who are listening, sign up. Because even though we've said we've got the first 2 cohorts and we're interviewing for the 3rd cohort, we want more people. And when I say interview folks, don't get scared by that. This is just a 15-minute, we want to get to know you better. And so we just have a 15-minute chat to understand, share expectations on what you can get out of the program. We'd love to understand what success looks like for you. And as long as you've got a GED, all are welcome.
I appreciate that internal summary and commercial. I want to deviate just a little bit, or digress just a little bit in terms of a philosophical question and get back on point. And again, send in your questions and so forth, because we want you to be able to ask the experts while they're here. Is cybersecurity, the phrase cybersecurity, is it a bit of an oxymoron in the sense that if you train someone to provide cybersecurity, don't they then inherently know how to crack the code?
It is
I mean, aren't we into the ultimate cat and mouse? You're training all these people to be able to stop people like them. So if I put together your cybersecurity system, I know how to break the system because I put it together. And I mean, guys like me who started off with a pad and a pen, and who are immigrants to technology, not natives like my children. I get these fishers emails all the time, and they're telling me, you have $312 left on that you need to pay on your account tomorrow, and I call that guy back there, Kevin. I said, I don't recall owing these people any money. He says, no, the email address looks good. I literally call him 2 or 3 times a month because they're about to get me. I'm about to get got with the fraud. And it's like they get better and they get better and they get better. Mm-hmm. So are we going to ever reach a place where the average user like me, who just wants to be able to turn it on, log on, put in a password, but don't want to have a bullseye on me all day long, is there ever going to be a place of cybersecurity, or is it just going to be you guys trying to stay step ahead of the guys who got the same skills that you're trying to protect, and they're trying to pray?
Look, excellent question.
That's 2 in the same broadcast.
Yes, and it is a bit of oxymoron, but let me give you an analogy. You can train, let's say, Eddie and Ram as locksmith. And let's say one of them pursues the opportunity of safeguarding homes.
And one of them wants to break in and be a thief.
Yeah, and and I'm going to not decide who's who here in this because I want to walk safely back. But where I'm going with this, Pastor, is our only chance as a civilized society is to stay one step ahead of the ones that have made choices to be bad. So the more people we educate, the more defenses we're going to have. And that's why there are 500,000 cybersecurity jobs open, because companies want to hire those people that are going to save them.
As nations, are we inevitably set up to experience a future at the military, at the corporate, the commercial level of cyber terrorism?
Without a doubt.
Yes.
Without a doubt. Because we're already seeing that happen today. And with AI and with how these technologies are changing at warp speed, it's inevitable. Yep. It will happen.
It's not a question of when.
It's
Is
not a
there
question
a
of if, it's a
possibility
question
that
of when.
since artificial intelligence, we're creating machines that are able to do more and more human functions without human prompting? Is there a point to where the machines themselves could take an action like that because we give them too much ability? See, now we're into the movie, the iRobot and Terminator.
Pastor, the question you're asking, that general intelligence, that is the conundrum that researchers and technologists around the world are grappling with today. Because that raises moral, ethical, and survivability questions, because Terminator, right? You know, who knows? Now, if you look at where the industry is heading, unless you've got people, rational, sane leaders who can step back and say, are there certain lines we cross or don't cross? Who knows, right? But I'm going to bring this back to the community and what we're trying to do. Security, that's why learning about security opens up so many vistas, so many opportunities, because every company out there, they're thinking about, hey, AI, whether we like it or not, it is upon us. Companies that are successful are those that leverage things like AI and cloud and data, etc., which says, okay, how do I make sure all that data is secure? How do I make sure that malicious actors don't break into my systems and steal my competitive advantage? And so I need people that are trained on security, cybersecurity. That's what we're trying to train our students for.
Yep. Final remarks to the folks out there. They've been listening, soaking all this in. And obviously we're in a, we're taking a kind of a mapless journey into the abyss of technology. The genie's out of the bottle, so we want to make friends with the genie.
Yep. Yes.
And we want to employ people in this growing, burgeoning field. This is the economic frontier. This is the jobs boom of the future. And so right here at New Beginnings Christian Fellowship, starting November the 5th on Tuesday and Thursday nights, our first cohort will be starting, a second one in December, and then perhaps a third in January. So once again, who are you looking for?
We're looking for anybody who is willing and able to commit 100 hours of their time for 3 months.
You get the QR code is on the screen. If you are interested and want to sign up for the program that can train you to go after some of those good paying jobs, even to start your own business, GED is required, but it doesn't matter if you have a felony record, because it gives you the capacity to work for yourself. If you have the skills, then you can always find a job, because your talent always makes room for you. Yes. Any final thoughts or words?
I would just like to ask, would you go through all the classes that will be taught during the tenure of the classes?
So we're going to be covering specifically around cloud. So when I say cloud, think about Azure and Google and AWS. Those are the three big hyperscalers. We're going to be talking about cloud technology. We're going to be talking about AI. When I say AI, things like how to use ChatGPT, what are the other models similar to ChatGPT, what are the practical applications of that, how do you use that in a business context. Then we're going to be covering something called low-code, no-code. That's a really big growth area. It's how do you create software by not writing a whole lot of code. Look, back when I started, Eddie, you had to actually sit there. We programmed in something called C and C++. You had to write, hundreds of lines of code to do something. These days, you've got tools to write the code for you, and how do you do that without writing code? So that's the third module. Then we'll be covering something around cybersecurity. We talked about the security piece. And the last element is, and then we're going to be covering data services. Because as Omer alluded to, data is the backbone of how the internet works today. Data is the backbone of how companies operate. Because, I'm going to digress here for a moment, right? Everybody, you might be thinking, hey, I get all of these really cool services. I get free email, I got TikTok, and I got Facebook, etc. How do they make money? They make money off of data. They harvest our data. They monetize the data. And one of the things we're going to be teaching our students on this data piece is, how does all of that work? How is data organized? That's a hugely valuable thing. And the last element we're going to be covering is around professional. How do you create a LinkedIn profile? How do you create a resume? How do you interview? And basically, once you get a job, how do you operate in a corporate environment?
I want to thank our special guests, which begins with the one and only, the inimitable activist, Mr. Eddie Wright Jr., who is responsible for creating this partnership between this absolutely wonderful training program and New Beginnings, and our special guests, Ram and Omar, who are going to be the principals involved in the training program, providing opportunities for you, the person on the other end of the camera who's watching this right now, who feels like you need an upgrade in your your employment opportunities. So please, the QR code is on the screen. If you have any interest at all, please go to that. Find out how to get your nomination in to become one of these cohorts and begin living your best life. Next week, our special guest is going to be none other than Ms. Tara Davis, former Rainier High School and University of Washington basketball standout, who has recently been appointed to the executive board of the Washington Interscholastic Athletic Association. She's just been elevated there and been talking about what's happening in high school sports in the state of Washington, and the role that she's playing there as God keeps putting her in taller and taller cotton and greener pastures. So it's going to be an exciting conversation about high school sports. You might want to tune in. There's some interesting things happening and coming down the pike. So please, as we begin, we end. Vote. Have a strategy to vote. If you're in an early voting state, get your ballot in early to make sure that nothing happens. Call your people in other states, particularly those battleground states, and tell them to vote like their life depends on it, because it does. It's a right that we suffered, bled, and died for. We have a moral obligation to exercise the right that other people got just for breathing. And again, your vote, you can transmute your own private thought and opinion into history and destiny by placing it in the ballot box. Until next week, take care of your health, take care of your wealth, and hear and heed the words of the prophet, the R&B prophet, Don Cornelius, who said, peace and love.
Thank you for joining Conversations with the Pastor here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. You can also join us for worship service on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Have a blessed week. See you next week.